Something weird is happening at the Euros, and I don't know if I can explain it. Almost everyone who's old enough remembers the 2004 Euros. A 17-year-old Ronaldo was just beginning to step on the scene, bringing with him a golden generation for the Portuguese national team, including Luis Figo, Deco, Maniche, Ricardo Carvalho, and Paletta. And they were to host the European Cup for the first time in their history. And it was all set to be a dream start for the kid and his nation, as they for the most part cruised their way through the tournament, beating Spain, England, and Holland along the way, only experiencing a minor speed bump against Greece, the team they would later meet again in the final. A side that, for lack of a better word, had basically shithoused their way into unfamiliar territory. Before 2004, Greece had only ever qualified for two major tournaments, the 1980 Euros and the 1994 World Cup, where, across both, they would only record a grand total of 1 point combined. The Portuguese were basically celebrating their win on home soil before the match began. And what a win it would be for a particular young kid's first major tournament. Then, this happened. Greece had scored from their only shot on target in the entire game, and that was that. Portugal had fallen to them in front of 40,000 home fans and their entire nation watching. And it was absolutely traumatizing to say the least. But hang on. This was not the first time that a host nation had failed to win the Euros in the later stages of the tournament, or even the final for that matter. That's happened quite a few times before. What I've found is something unprecedented, a pattern, one that's been forming since 1988 and has been consistently repeating itself for over 3 decades. Chosen to host the 1988 edition of the Euro Cup, Germany, well, technically West Germany at the time, because of, let's not get into this here. Germany had a pretty stacked national team, including the likes of Voller, Lothar Matthäus, and Jurgen Klinsmann, all headed by legend Franz Beckenbauer. They would basically walk their way into the semifinals, defeating the Italians and the Spanish along the way. Here, they were matched against an insane Dutch side, and after going up early in the second half, they conceded twice in 14 minutes to lose at home in Hamburg. Holland, on the other hand, would go on to win their first and only ever final in a major tournament. Germany's failure here would spark the beginning of a pattern, one that would see every single host nation for the next 32 years fail to lift a trophy despite having a massive home field advantage. Check it out. 1992, Sweden are hosts of the tournament and find themselves in the semi-final against the newly reunited Germany squad, but fail to make it to the next round and lose 3-2 at home. Then in 1996, we have England. Yeah, about that. They're knocked out in a packed Wembley after Gareth Southgate, of all people, misses his penalty in a shootout against Germany. 2000, Holland and Belgium are joint hosts. Belgium don't make it out of the group stage, and Holland, just like Germany, Sweden, and England, are knocked out in the semi-finals. 2004, remember, Portugal loses to Greece in the finals. 2008, Austria and Switzerland are co-hosts, and both are knocked out in the group stage. 2012, Poland and Ukraine are hosts, both knocked out in the group stages. 2016, France hosts the tournament for the first time since the inaugural version of the competition in 1960, where they were knocked out in the semi-finals of the tournament as the host side, but I digress. This 2016 France team were pretty heavy favorites to win the Euros and made it to the final, where they would face a Portugal side that made it there thanks to a rule change allowing some third-place group finishers to advance. In fact, this Portugal team only managed to win one of its games in 90 minutes the entire tournament, but arguably the worst player on the Portuguese national team, stepped up and then vanished into existence. And France lose in the final in front of their home crowd, embarrassingly in extra time. Alright, let's recap real quick. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 host nations in a row failing to win the tournament. And make that 12, the most recent one being England, again in the 2020 Euro. Now, I know that technically this Euro didn't have a true host, but when you're England and playing in the final at Wembley, you better believe that the advantage for them is basically the same as hosting. And of course, the side led by Gareth Southgate, the man who failed to score his penalty at Wembley when they were hosts in 1996, failed his side again when they fell to an average Italian side in penalties. So all in all, there hasn't been a national team that was able to win the Euros as a host nation since the first Macintosh computer came out. And in the entire history of the competition, only 3 countries have been able to complete this feat: Spain in 1964, Italy in 1968, and France, the last ones, in 1984. In total, we've had 16 editions of the competition, and in 13 of them, the hosts have failed to win. I think it's safe to say, we've got a curse on our hands. And to make all of this even more interesting, remember that the curse began with Germany in 1988. Germany are hosting this upcoming tournament in the summer of 2024, so this would mean that they have an opportunity to break the curse. And it's looking more and more like a possibility, as this inconsistent German side have seemed to find some ground, recently defeating France and Holland. And I know what you're saying, they were just friendly matches, but thanks to the insane season Leverkusen are having, players like Florian Wirtz, Andrich, and Tah are important additions. And don't you dare forget this crazy Stuttgart team, who've also brought in many great reinforcements. All combined with Rudiger, Musiala, Toni Kroos, Gundogan, Kimmich, and Havertz. The tide seemed to be changing for this German side, but people seem to be paying them less attention than favorites France, England, and Portugal. Will they break a 3-decade-long curse like France did in the 2022 World Cup, or will they continue on the tradition of the host nation failing to bring home the trophy? And as always, see you next time.